from Villach, Austria. I'm part from the Paten der Nacht non-profit organization, and I'd like to take some minutes to just introduce our club and our organization. And this is going to be some sort of jump from this very high level and abstract slides we just saw to, let's say, very people-oriented terminologies and things we do since years to talk to people and politicians, and there's obviously a lot of difference in terms of terminology we use, different approaches, and I hope you don't mind the gap. Also, I was not aware of this super international stage now, and I also collected only a few slides on the weekend to introduce this stuff. So my slides are going to be in German, but I will do the talking, and I hope you don't mind. So the Paten der Nacht itself is a German-speaking centralized organization, and the epicentrum of this Paten der Nacht is Manuel Philipp. He introduced these non-profit organizations a couple of years ago, and he formed a sort of group around him. And the idea is to form a group and a couple of people who talk to other people, you know, to talk to politicians, to make a lot of awareness work and so on. And Manuel, I gotta say, really putting all his time and financial assets also into this organization. It's really crazy the amount of work he does, and we already have available, especially for the German-speaking countries around here. And by now we also have sort of a subset of the German organization also here in Austria. We are sort of a club since last year, and here again we are a widespread amount of people talking to other people and politicians. And I'm not sure about how aware you are of some of these people you see in this picture, because some of them are really, really fundamental, not only for Austria, but also international work in terms of light pollution. Our spearhead, so to say, is Dr. Stefan Wallner. He's now working, I think, on a Slovakian university, and he's really full-time a scientist on this. He's doing lots of publications. And I mention him in particular because you mentioned some sort of measurements of dark sky places. It's not as easy to just put up a measurement tool and that's it. There's a lot of know-how related to how to measure the sky brightness, so to say. And Stefan was working heavily on this, so it's related to air pollution, to weather, to all kinds of stuff. And he was publishing a lot of things, and he's continuing some research work there. So in case you really need to dig into some measurement tools, this is the guy to contact, because he has a lot of know-how. This is a very complex stuff. Also related to dark sky places in Austria, Clemens Schneidl is the manager of the dark sky park Attersee Traunsee in Austria. So he has a lot of know-how on how to build such places, what kind of regulations you need to meet, and so on. So he's a very, very important guy also. And in Austria itself, we have the Umweltdachverband, for example, Christian Raffezeder and Christina Bichler-Koban. They were heavily involved with those guys. So what I'm trying to say, we have a lot of know-how already in our group in the German-speaking area. But okay. So one thing we do in Austria and also in Germany, we try to educate people about light pollution, because this is a very fundamental pillar, let's say, to talk to the people. It's about awareness building. It's about telling the people how vast the effects are of light pollution, because it's not only about looking at the stars. This was also my intro to the topic, but I learned over the years there's a lot more to it, and it's important to communicate these things. And we do that by, we form like little guided astro tours. You said astrotourism. Yes, we have some locations in Austria which are really amazing in terms of sky gazing. And we take on the chance of showing them the skies, and we also do a presentation on light pollution since a couple of years. We also work together with the national resorts in Austria already since a couple of years, which is super useful. As I mentioned, Dr. Stefan Wallner also tries to push the media a lot. He's publishing in several magazines, and through some of our projects of the Paten der Nacht, which I will introduce later, we also try to push the media to make to bring more awareness on this light pollution topic. So this is educating people on the one hand side, but all of us, we also try to involve the local governments to make things better. In particular, I'm working with the city of Villach since a couple of years. We also wrote a sort of report on the quote-unquote study on light pollution of the city, and we developed some action items for the city to implement, to improve things. We had very recently a very successful let's say meeting and event with the city and all kinds of sub-resorts of the city to talk about the issue and what to do better, and it was very positive outcome. So this is very successful work lately, so we also have some know-how on this. In terms of awareness building, we have since a couple of years the so-called Earth Night. I think many of you are familiar with this. This is just one night per year where we try to convince cities to turn off their useless lights to celebrate the darkness of night, so to say. And while this is growing in terms of popularity, I also need to mention that this year we were able to align the Earth Night with the Lange Nacht der Naturparke, so the long night of natural resorts. And this is really the goal of the Earth Night, to make people aware of the issue. And we make this night as a big event, and all the, or let's say the majority of national resorts, they aligned this with that night, and they try to use it as a chance to introduce people to the issue, to light pollution, and sort of a ground up approach. You know, we really need to talk to the people, and the way to do it is through events, through media, and through easy terminology also, and to easy to implement things afterwards. So Manuel is really putting a lot of work into now also international flyers, some info brochures, some guidances on local governments on what they can implement, how they can advertise themselves, and so on. So there's a lot of work already done, and I think it makes sense to build on that also for you guys. Because we are in Austria, we are very aware of the impacts of light pollution over the years. We know it's plus 10% per year, and we feel it even in the center of Austria, even though there are no big cities around. The illumination is just growing and growing. And I think working together with the national resorts, I think I saw Gudrun. She must know us already somehow, because we did our meeting of the Paten Nacht some years ago in the EACEA, one of the darkest places in Austria. Really amazing place to be. And in terms of astrotourism, I think Austria has a lot of chances, and we do already try to build some awareness. So one project is the Earth Night, as I mentioned. Another very essential project is the 22 Uhr Lichthaus, so turn off the lights at 10 p.m., so to say, where we try to convince companies to turn off their advertisements, the illuminated advertisements by night, because it's one hand to talk to politicians on things they can do, but it's also a lot about private people and also companies to give them some sort of opportunities to improve. And one of the opportunities we came up with, or Manuel came up with, is to provide a certificate for all those guys who turning off their advertisements during the night. So it's kind of a new sort of advertisement, you know, because you do something good for the environment, for nature, by turning off the lights, because you recognize light pollution as a big issue, and you get rewarded by a certificate. And not only that, we created some sort of homepage, which is super interactive, a map where you can pinpoint all the locations which are participating on that project. It's more than 400 companies already by now. So it's kind of growing, but it could grow much faster, in my opinion. And it's not only us pushing for it, also Vienna did it a couple of years ago by approaching different markets and stores in the city center to convince them to turn off their lights because of light pollution and so on. They also kind of pointed to our project, but honestly speaking, I think not even one of them approached us on that. So I think this 22 o'clock lights off, this is a very fundamental pillar of how to convince companies to participate, because they, of course, they want to earn something out of it. They always think turning off a light is bad for their advertisement. It's a step back. And by giving them a platform, a new kind of advertisement by a certificate, this is the way. We have the same thing also for gardens. It's one thing. We also cooperated with some sort of producers of lights. They also got a certificate of us if they build the lights properly. Of course, we had a lot of other info material also. This, I think we can mention in some more detail. Last slide. This is important because it's not only the Partner Nacht, but there's also the Dark Sky Association. Of course, many of you are aware of it. There is a subchapter Austria by now, and it's like 50% of them in Austria are from the Partner Nacht. So we're really the center of Austria in terms of know-how. And I think a cooperation makes sense. Comments, sorry to interrupt, but in terms of legislations, you said you listed it correctly. We don't have any laws in Austria. And this is one thing we focus on, Dark Sky Austria, to push for laws in Austria. I mean, since almost 10 years, we have some very interesting drafts on how laws in Austria could look like in terms of light pollution, but politicians keep on ignoring us. And it would be nice to change this also from a top-down approach if the EU is pushing for more laws on that. So I think this is a very fundamental thing, because if you talk to politicians, they always point to the fact that we don't have laws and they will not come up with this. We have super good standards, obviously, but they're not bound to be used, right? So I think this is very fundamental also.